Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cheerleaders, welcome to an episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my true partner, Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So, Anthony, how was your trip?
Beautiful country, really nice people. It was just a very busy itinerary, and I brought I don't want to say judo gi, actually. It was technically a jiu-jitsu gi. I brought my gi and my belt and my no gi stuff, and part of this trip, I was supposed to go to standard jiu-jitsu. Like I talked about going to visit Greg because he's right by my in-laws' house. Mm-hmm. I was going to do that, and I was going to go to some clubs in Ireland. None of that happened. Long story short, I almost missed my flight. I almost missed my flight, and I got COVID. So that was like the gist of why I didn't train at all this whole trip. So what were you more mad about, catching COVID in Ireland or not being able to go to your special privilege pass, like lounge room? Privilege pass. Oh yeah. Cause I ended up going to the lounge, on the way back. So basically, for those who don't know, I have like this credit card that gives me access to the airport lounge. And basically I'm losing money if I don't use it every time I travel. So I was kind of pissed off that I almost missed my flight and I didn't get a chance to use it. So, but I got to use it on the way back, and it was great. Food was good. It was more quiet. There was a guy that had his kid like screaming around.
Can't stand that.
I know, but yeah, I won't elaborate on that. I don't want to start any issues of the debate about having kids in a lounge, but yeah, overall it was a great trip. I just wish I got to train there because the timing didn't work out. They canceled in Dublin. I was supposed to visit this club called Wild Geese Judo and MMA. So when I messaged them, the only day I was available to go train, they canceled their class that day. I don't know why. But I was like, oh, well,
coming.
Yeah, probably. So I'm just kidding. But they canceled the class, and then I went to Killarney. By the way, that was like really one of the best parts of the trip. Was the town was just like amazing. It was beautiful. They have a small judo club, and but it was a good good 15-minute drive away. So I'd have to call a cab. But the problem is the cab would have to, I'm staying out in the countryside, right? So the cab would have to come from the town center. So I think I would have to pay like €50 each way to go to this judo club. And I was ready to do it anyway, but I wasn't feeling so well. So I didn't make it back in time. And then I ended up finding out I got COVID. So it was a good thing I didn't go. So it's okay. It's always going to be next time. I want to go back again sometime, just on my own schedule instead of going with a large group. And the schedule was really, really packed tight. I was like, I came back more tired than I actually went. So partially because of COVID, but the other part's just a lot of hiking and walking and tight schedule, sitting on the bus for long hours. It's just not ideal.
Well, it looked like you went to like some river dance show, or you went like Lord of the Dance stuff. You went to
it's called Irish dancing. So I thought it was like same as tap dancing, but apparently tap dancing is American and it's very different. So I went to a tap dancing show, a lot of hiking. You
almost fell off a castle.
Oh yeah, there was this thing called a Blarney Stone. Like supposedly it gives you like the gift of gab if you kiss that stone. So people would hang upside down. And this guy would like hold you up and you would kiss the stone that's like underneath the side of the castle. And they have like railings and stuff installed now, but you can find pictures of people back in the day, like they're holding you, two people holding you so you don't fall down. But it's just funny because everyone's kissing this stone, and I didn't line up. I just from the bottom I recorded upwards to see people kissing the stone, and there's a guy that sits there and he sprays the stone and wipes it, and the next person comes up to kiss it, and he gets tips that way. But very interesting. Not my kind of thing. But went to the Guinness factory. That was amazing. I had so much Guinness there. It was so good. My favorite part of the trip though is the fact that I didn't have to tip. Not that I have a problem with tipping.
Oh, come on, Anthony.
No. It's just when you see the price on something, the tax and whatever fees are already included. So when because we went with a large group, every time we go eat somewhere, it was so easy to figure the bill out. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. Okay. I get you there.
Yeah. It's so easy to figure the bill out. You look at the price and you're like, oh, this is 25 euros. This is 10 euros. You add it up and that's how much you owe. You don't have to do like, well, divide it by this amount and then like add the tip, like figure out the tip of the total and divide it. And like, there's none of that stuff. And that was the easiest part, was just being able to see how much something costs and the tax and the tip. Well, I don't want to say tips included, but basically the price is as advertised, which is something I mean, like growing up in Asia, I was used to it already, but it was just nice going to a non-Asian country that does that too. So,
did you have any whiskey?
I did. I bought this Irish whiskey called the Liberator. I don't want to make this whole episode about my trip, but basically,
people are interested in you. People are more interested in you than they are.
I had an interesting encounter at a liquor store because I said I wanted something local, and I grabbed this one that says Irish whiskey, but it was actually from Northern Ireland. And for those who don't know the political stuff going happening there, just like look it up. But when I was like, oh, I want something local, do you recommend this? And he was like, that's from the north. Like they don't call it Northern Ireland, they call it the north. So they basically, everyone there kind of, when they say Ireland, they say how many provinces, like kind of like saying how many states there are, and they include Northern Ireland. So they don't see it as like a separate part of the separate country. So they think it's like part of both. They believe it's part of Ireland, but yeah. So I didn't get that, and I didn't understand that at first. And then he was like, "Oh, I recommend this one. This is local. You won't be able to get this anywhere else." So I ended up getting a local whiskey, which I wasn't able to finish and left the bottle there. So hopefully, whoever is staying in that room afterwards is gonna have some
drink
free
your
whiskey.
COVID bottle of whiskey.
Well, I got COVID after, so I haven't touched it since I got COVID. But I'm just surprised I got it. Like all this time, I never got COVID from grappling, but now I went to this trip and I got COVID. So,
all right. Yep. Well, it sounds like you had a fun trip. I'm glad you had a fun trip. I'm glad you're home safe. Yep. I was actually very worried when you told me you caught COVID in Ireland. I was like, oh my God, Anthony's going to stay in Ireland an extra week somehow. How much is that going to cost him? Was he going to stay in a hostel or something? Buy a tent to go in the forest or something? I don't know what. Go hang with some pixies. I was worried.
The symptoms were really bad the first 2 days. And then the next, like the remainder of the trip and flying back, it was fine. I was normal. I didn't have any problems other than really bad muscle ache, which made sitting on the plane like suck more. And then once I got back, that was when I developed a cough. And I think I'm guessing I picked up a separate cold from the plane. I don't think it's COVID related.
But you had your N95 on though. Yeah,
I had my N95 on, but I still, because everyone on the plane got a cold afterwards, I think. So my wife got sick. My in-laws got sick. So,
right.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's good you're home. I'm just glad you're home. I'm glad you're feeling better now. Okay. So we had a lot of questions. People sent Anthony a bunch of stuff. I really didn't get much stuff because I know people don't like talking to me apparently, but it doesn't matter. So Anthony got a little bit bullied online. You know, don't be a bully, be a star. All right. Don't be a bully to Anthony, because some people would misinterpret what we talked about in our last episode. So Anthony wanted to clarify a few things and some remarks that we got from people. So Anthony, go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about.
I think the problem was mostly me. I think I tried to choose my words carefully so people from both sides of the argument wouldn't misunderstand it. But I think what ended up happening was I kind of like upset people that were like hard stances on both sides. Like, so I guess on one hand, people who were on the ecological approach side were saying this is an ecological approach. These guys don't know what they're talking about. And I'm just like, well, they basically said we're not experts. And I'm like, yeah,
we're not claiming to be experts. We never were.
Yeah. So I was like, in the first like 2 minutes, I think, of the interview, we were like, okay, we're not claiming to be experts. This is just something we're like talking about and how we're approaching it. And yeah, and there, without going to, because I don't want to go into a part 3 kind of thing, because we did talk about how we only talked about half of it, and I don't want to talk about the other half because that's going to take another 2 episodes and hours. But we're not saying that uchikomis are useless. Let's just put that out there. We never ever said that.
Stop saying we. Stop saying we. You.
I never said uchikomis are. I think at one point the closest I said was pretend for a second that uchikomis are proven to be useless. I still use uchikomis in my class. I'm just saying how it should be used properly. Like there's more nuances and details on how to use this tool better, basically. So I think that's how I would word it. Yeah. But basically we didn't say uchikomi is useless, which is what I called the guy Caleb, but the guy's name is Cal. I looked it up afterwards and I was just, oh, I got the guy's name wrong. The other podcast where they interviewed Cal Jones, like he is just basically straight up saying, I think uchikomi is useless. So I disagree with that. And I was trying to make the case for that, though I do think a lot of people blindly do uchikomi just doing the movements without actually mindfully know what they're working on. So I think that's where some of the misunderstanding was. So that's one. So no, that's 2. We talked about how we're not experts, and then how we're not saying uchikomis are useless. The other thing that we got a comment on YouTube where the guy's like, well, if you're crying because do I have it up right now? Yeah. If you cry because you do not progress fast enough, I'm not sure judo is the right sport for you. So the story is, we should elaborate the story more. That guy's been doing judo for like, most of the people that I talked about that has, as an example, that have cried in their car from frustration, they've been showing up to class like every single time. They work super hard and they go against all the black belts in randori and they just get smashed over and over and over again. And a lot of people will say, well, that's part of judo. And my argument is basically saying you should get smashed sometimes, but if it's just getting smashed over and over and over again, I think you're not learning anything. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if I'm wording it really well.
But I think it's more the confusion, people getting confused with that. So there's 2 ways. Like we're literally talking about someone like they're super frustrated. You know how it is. You get so frustrated with life or just something's bothering you so much and you tear up. You just give up a little bit. So you just get this frustrating cries. So it happens sometimes. We're not talking about these cry like some people that cry like, oh, so-and-so got a brown belt, but I didn't get a brown belt. Or, oh, so-and-so's getting their green belt test, but I've been here just as long as they have and I'm not getting mine. We're not talking about whiners like that or people that cry about stuff like that. We're talking about someone who's like getting so frustrated with their progressions. They hit that plateau, they hit that wall and just cannot get past it. And you're so frustrated. That's why they're crying. And we're talking about someone that was like that. But then there's also people that have that same frustration. And you're talking about someone that comes all the time. But I've also had a member that was a part-timer, didn't come all the time, but showed that same frustration one time, talk about how they cried in their car because they're not getting better. And I'm like, well, you need to show up. All right. I hate to be mean about it, but I got to be that mean sensei right now. It's like, well, you got to show up on a regular basis. You can't come once or twice a month and expect to be beating other citrus colors that are higher than you or beating brown and black belts. Okay. If you're only coming once a month. And I know we lost some people that have had things like that they go to jiu-jitsu instead, because sometimes judo, because it's a little more technical when it comes to stand-up, is harder. So you hit that wall. And that's when I feel bad for people. It's like, you need to come and work on something. And those are kind of, sometimes you get those people that jump move to move also. We're talking about that kind of frustration crying.
Yeah, especially
not the I feel entitled that I should have this crying, not that crying.
Especially some of the people that are smaller. Like, I mean, most people know strength helps, right? Some people come in strong and physically strong and athletic already, and they have an easier time with judo. Mostly because they can muscle through their way in randori a lot. And you have these smaller people or people who aren't trying to muscle their way through, and they've been training for 2 years, and there's a white belt that walks in and they get smashed by the white belt that just started for 2 months. And that's kind of demoralizing too, when you're like spending hours, like showing up to class, getting smashed by everyone. And this guy just walks in through class and smashes you. Like, that's also kind of demoralizing. So we're talking about that kind of frustration, and that's something we didn't elaborate. I personally have, not with judo, but with a different sport when I was in high school, I personally had that, kind of like frustration. I didn't cry because I guess I ended up not caring so much. I just ultimately quit because I'm like, here I am waking up 4 a.m. in the morning and training like 8 hours a day. And at the finals of the school tournament, I got like 21 zipped. No, not 21 zipped. 21 is 1. I only scored 1 point off of this guy. And this guy wasn't training as hard as I was, like clearly not. And which is like a good example of why it's kind of like an ecological approach, because I was doing all these rote training drills because I couldn't play the game. I was waking up in the morning to do solo practice and all that kind of stuff. So I did hours and hours of these solo practice, and I actually messed up my shoulder. Part of the reason my shoulders are messed up is from overuse, from the repeating those training drills all these years in high school. So yeah, that's frustration too. When you work so hard all this time, you get sick, you get injured and all that stuff. And then this guy who hasn't even been training half as hard as you are, like just totally destroys you. That was when I decided to quit. I was just like, well, I'm just clearly not cut out for this. But yeah, so judo's completely different story. But I understand the frustration that some people have. And I think for those people, if they're trying so hard and they're getting demoralized, then I don't think it's kind of like judo's not the right sport for you kind of thing. It's kind of like, especially if we're not training like high level competitors, I think it's our job as instructors to make it like fun for them. Just kind of like how I said at the end of last episode, people are so focused on competitions and winning and all that kind of stuff that they forget about having fun. Like, that's ultimately what will drive the growth of judo in America. And if every single time someone gets frustrated and you're just like, well, this is how I teach it, and if you think it's boring, then don't learn it, then that's why judo is like becoming so unpopular here, I think. So.
And with that, so that's our excuse and our excuses and rebuttals to some arguments out there from people. So again, if you guys like our stuff, remember, please like, share, and follow. Okay. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can send us emails at tatamitalk@gmail.com. You can follow us on our YouTube channel. We talk about right now, Tatami Talk on YouTube. If you want to follow me, some meeting messages, don't. The Jared_Juan. Please send them all to Anthony at Anthony Throws at Instagram. Okay.
All right, I think so. To summarize, back to the ecological approach, like, I think a lot of people misunderstood what we said. But it was kind of the goal of that episode is for you to like, for us to tell people this thing exists. If you're interested, if this piqued your interest, you should go check it out and read about it yourself and try it out, kind of thing. If you can, like, if you're dojo, like if you run your own school, obviously it's easier. But then if like you're just like a assistant instructor or something, then it's obviously a little harder. But yeah, just figure it out, read it yourself. We're not experts. If you want to ask like what kind of drills we use, we can share that. But again, we're not experts. Yeah. So, but overall, I kind of expected those comments, like people who, one, say we're not doing it right, and two, from the other side, people who are saying that it's useless kind of thing. So I kind of expected those comments, but overall, I got a lot of positive response. So I think, funny enough, the thing that surprised me was the people who were not open to it as much were actually people from the BJJ community. Because someone posted I try not to participate in the BJJ subreddit, and I'll keep the reason to myself. But someone posted our episode on the BJJ subreddit, and I think most of the messages I got that were kind of disparaging it were from the BJJ community, which has me surprised because they're the ones that I think have more people doing this kind of stuff. And I expected the judo community to be the ones that are against it because they're more traditional kind of thing. But yeah, that was I guess pleasantly surprised to want to say, but yeah.
All right. So moving on, I want to go into, I forgot to actually tell Anthony I was going to talk about this, but we're just going to throw it in real quick. So last year, the UFC did a Road to UFC Asia edition, which is their Asian tournament where the people that win the tournament get a UFC contract. And if you do well in the tournament, you might get a UFC contract also. So they started season 2 actually yesterday, which will be a week from today when this thing comes out. And there are some great fights in episode 1 or 2. I want to talk about, this is going to be biased. Okay, I'm going to talk about one fighter that was great out there. Rie Tetsuya, I think is how you say his name. I'm not exactly sure. But this guy was grappling like a monster out there. And I'm going to spoil the fight. I'm going to spoil it. I don't care if you get mad at me or not. All right. You had a week to watch this already. So he gets the guy, throws him with the beautiful koshiguruma, like in the air koshiguruma, just like guys, just a wood plank, just boom, gets him there.
I'm seeing after Uta Abe, I saw so many koshiguruma highlights last couple of weeks. So it was interesting.
Yeah. So he throws this guy with beautiful koshiguruma, puts him in kesekatame and stuff, and he does that really cool version of kesekatame. You get the kesekatame, you get the guy's arm, and you put him in kimura using your foot, using your leg. So it's the neck crank kesekatame with the arm being in the kimura, which is a judo and catch wrestling move. And it was beautiful. Everyone, the announcers were like, what happened? How do you tap? How do you tap? When I first saw it, it was from a bad angle. I thought, oh shit, neck crank. He beat him with a neck crank. Then they showed the replay, like, oh shit, he had the kimura. And the announcers they have for this series, they didn't know what it was. Though I'm not going to say who it was, so you get to watch it. But one of the announcers was saying that I've never seen that before. What is that? Is that a catch wrestling move? Is that a judo move? What is that? I'm like, that is a basic thing. I remember learning that when I was like a white belt in judo. Like that's such an old school technique right there. That is a judo and catch wrestling technique. So you want to see it, go out there and watch it. There's some great matches out there. The one thing I will say is that there was a couple things that the announcing team they had there, they're more MMA people. They're not like a wrestler or a judo player or a jiu-jitsu player. They're mostly they're MMA people. Like they train MMA. So they know MMA grappling, also MMA. So there's a couple times since this was the Asian games where all the people they're from like Korea, Japan, China, India. They have people from those countries. They're still like really based in one thing. They're not full MMA fighters. They're like a judo guy that got into MMA, a grappler, like a catch wrestler or a wrestler, a taekwondo guy they had, Sandow guys. They're doing certain techniques. And these announcers, like I'm not bagging on them, but I am. They're like, I've never seen it before. What is that? I've never seen that one done before. I'm like, that's a basic wrestling move. What are you talking about? That is a simple freestyle wrestling move. That's a Sandow kick style right there. How do you know this? And you're supposed to be these MMA announcers. So,
well, you can't. Yeah, you can't be an expert in everything, right? So,
well, if you're gonna be an announcer and announce MMA, come on.
Well, then they should probably diversify their commentators, right? Instead of just having everyone's MMA and only knows Muay Thai, BJJ, and boxing, that kind of stuff. Yeah. You should have a guy who's like a Sanda guy, a wrestler, a judoka, a jiu-jitsu guy, like a Muay Thai champion. Like,
there's many times they're saying certain things like, oh, that's terrible. He's in a terrible position. I'm like, no. This guy's a wrestler. I know what he's doing. I can see exactly what he's doing right there. Oh, and look, he did it. Yes. So it's really fun. It's great to watch. It's usually like almost a year long or 6-9 months long. Episode 1 and 2 are right now. They're both, I think, 2-hour episodes. Really great fights. Go watch them. Some crazy knockouts too. Really great knockouts. Like it's something about the Asian fighters. That's why I like Ryzen. That's why he likes one championship. They go out to fight. Like some of these Asian fighters, they go to fight. They're not like some of these American fighters or European fighters that go to like point fighting or to win round to round. No, these guys are out there to win.
Mhm.
They want to submit. They want to knock somebody out. Okay. That's why I love watching these guys fight. So did you hear about this yet? Or did you watch it at all, Anthony?
No, I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been kind of out of commissions for a while.
I tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can catch up on it, great. It's some great fights. Some other interesting Judo Fool news. So 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks already? Was the World Championships or was it a week ago?
I think it was more than 2. It was happening while I was in Ireland. Like it just started shortly after.
So a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Judo World Championships happened. Now, I'm not going to bore everybody with the details and stuff. I just want to talk about some business right here, okay? Now, remember how IGF was like, okay, we're not going to show our stuff on YouTube anymore. We're going to take it off. And even Judo TV kind of like went away. Like, what happened to Judo TV? It was all about Judoverse. Got to be Judoverse. Got to log into Judoverse, watch everything on the Judoverse.
Was it Judo TV or Judo? Yeah, I'm confused now. So, Judoverse was the old one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they try to rebrand it as Judoverse to make you buy the NFTs or make you just pay the subscription and watch it. I think it didn't go so well because this World Championships, guess what's back in full effect? Judo TV's back. So that means that you can log in to Judo TV, create an account there, and you can watch the matches live for free. Now you're going to get this little screen on there because I had to watch my phone. Yeah, for me, it was like a little screen. I
saw screenshots of it and I was like, holy crap, that's huge.
So they might pay for it. So I was watching my phone. So for me watching my phone, you can't blow it up. You can't make it bigger than it already is. You can't turn your phone sideways or nothing. It stays whatever the thumbnail size is, whatever. The second thing that you're going to get 2 advertisements. There's going to be a block on top that's advertising cars, Judoverse, NFTs, whatever advertisement they're showing on there. There's going to be another one in the corner being like, hey, if you don't like this, go to the paid subscription. Okay. But for me, it's enough. I can watch the match. I'm cool. I can watch enough right here. I ain't paying extra money for this. All right. But if you had an NFT, you could still log in using this to watch on Judo TV. So Judoverse is still around and they're still selling those NFTs on there, but they're directing you now to Judo TV to watch the matches, which is great to watch them live. Now, if you want to pay, Anthony?
I was going to say, I heard so many people complaining about it. I wanted to see all these like ads that they're talking about and the pop-ups that you're talking about. But my subscription still from that NFT that I bought last year. Yeah. It's still live. Like it still works. It still works. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been more than a year, right?
No, I don't think it's been more than a year.
Okay.
I don't think it's been a year yet.
Yeah, continue. I'll talk about that more later. But yeah.
So when I was looking at the price of how much it would cost to just get Judo TV for a year. So it's I had to convert it from pounds to American dollars.
You mean euros?
Yeah, euros. That's what it's euros. Sterling silver, whatever they use. Okay. So I had to convert it to dollars. And it came out to about $110. It was $110.15. Okay, for 1 year. Divide that by 12, so it's going to come out to just under. It'd be like $9.17 per month. Which, if you really love judo and you want to watch all the tournaments, once or twice a month tournaments, it's an okay price for me. It's not great because I already hate paying for Netflix. Okay, and I ain't paying for all these other things. But
a bunch of people just cancel Netflix too with the current password sharing thing going live. Yeah.
So it's up to you if you want to do that or not. But if you really love watching judo, and here's the fun thing. If you don't pay, you're doing the free one like I do, you can just watch it live. Okay. I can't go back and watch replays. I can't go back and like, hey, this match is really good. I want to watch it again. No, it's just a straight live stream. Now, Anthony, since he has an NFT, is supposed to be able to log in anytime and rewatch it.
Yeah, I was able to rewatch
do that. Okay, so you've been able to do that.
I've been able to do that. And honestly, I think it was a huge improvement from the previous app Judoverse that we reviewed last time. Mm-hmm. If you go back and listen to the old episode where we review it, there was a lot of issues I had with the app. I have other issues with this current program, but that's a different story. It's overall a huge improvement. Now the question is, would I pay $100 for it?
Over $100, $110 a year.
110. Would I pay 110 for it? No. It goes back to what I said about the quality of reffing has been so bad that I don't even want to watch it. So
you'd rather just watch the highlights.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this later, but it kind of confirmed my choice to not renew this when it comes for renewal again. This World Championship is just the calls have been so bad. Yeah, let's just leave it at that because I don't want to jump into the World Championship topic yet. So yeah, I would not pay for it basically. So, but it is an improvement over the past previous app.
All right. So yeah, so if you love judo and you want to get up at whatever time it's being live streamed in whatever country it's going to be in, try it out. For me, I would during the World Championships, I would get up, make my breakfast, put my phone up right there, and I would be watching the gold medal matches while eating my breakfast. So.
Yeah, people on Reddit were really upset that is not free anymore, or for a while it was not free, right? I think it was before the World Championship where you couldn't even watch it live.
Yeah, so it was back.
There was no free version.
Yeah, with Judoverse, there was no free way of watching it. So at least you can watch for free live.
Yeah, I think the live thing was only for World Championships, but before the World Championships, you couldn't watch it live even without paying. People were upset about that, and then when the free live version came out, people were still upset about that because of the NFT ads and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, man, people. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but people are really entitled. Like you think it doesn't cost money to hire people to record all this stuff. Like if you've been to any of these live tournaments and you look at all the cameramans and gear and all that kind of production stuff that's going on, and as someone who has recorded videos now for the short videos and then our podcast videos and editing and also for our live stream, like hacking together that scoreboard, like live stream for our in-house tournament. And then also recently I got to see how Matthew recorded the video for Hollywood Judo, like Philippe's Okuri Ashibara video. It's not easy. It takes time and money and production effort. Like, where do you think all this money is coming from to handle that? You can argue the sponsors are, but then if people aren't paying for it, then the sponsors will have to show. We have to show ads for the sponsors. The sponsors aren't just going to give money for free for nothing. So now whether again, remember I said I would personally not pay for it because of a different reason, but whether the ads are too big or whether the price is too expensive, that's a different story. But people expecting this level of quality of production and continue to be free, then I think they're kind of entitled, and people should go back even 5 years, like last Olympic cycle. Look at the production quality of that tournament live stream on YouTube versus the one that just happened in World Championship. Like it was a great what do you call it?
Bump up in
quality,
value,
like
quality value. Yeah.
It used to be you only had one commentary per mat. Like you would have to. There's only one mat they would commentate, and then I think Neil Adams and the other three people, I don't remember their name, they would rotate in pairs to commentate. Now they have a commentary. There's some new guy that they use now, but now they have commentary in different mats. That happened before even they started charging, but. That's one thing that's improved over the years is that they have more people commentating. Now, whether they're good at commentating or not, that's a different story because I think some of them aren't that good. But that's one thing. Number two is they now have a front and the back angle camera on the replays. That didn't happen before. And recently, one of the complaints I had about the replays was that there was no scoreboard available. Now they just recently added the scoreboard available. So everything is increasing production quality. There's stats available. You can follow your athletes that you want to follow, and they'll send you a notification when they're up to fight on the phone and stuff. Like so, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool, but again, I wouldn't pay for it unless they start making better calls. I mean, that's the reason I don't watch boxing or UFC anymore, because the reffing and judging is terrible. I don't want to invest I don't want to invest the time. I'm not even talking about money at this point. I don't even want to invest the time to watch this whole match just for it to end in a shitty ass Shido call, you know? So like, why would I pay money for that? But yeah.
But yeah, so Judo TV's back in the scene. It's back again. Judoverse is still around because they're still hawking those damn NFTs. And I want to see like, well, what are they doing with the NFTs now? What are they offering? So it's still the same thing where if you buy the NFT, you get Judo TV for 1 year. All right. Unless you buy a platinum one. And you
this
get 2
is the
years.
thing too. Like one of my complaints is I can't see how much longer I have on the subscription. I would have to go figure out when I bought the NFT, which I can't do either unless I log into the NFT page. But from the Judo TV thing, I can't see how long my subscription is for. I can't even pay for another year if I wanted to, like ahead of time, or set up an auto renewal or whatever. I don't know, but I can't. There's literally no page for that.
Yeah. So it's basically only 3 things now. So Judo TV, the Pass for a World Judo Tournament event, which are you able to use that, or have you used that yet?
Watch the pass events?
No. So you get a pass for a judo event.
Oh,
like it just says pass for all judo world judo events.
Yeah. So
and I know they don't have one in.
You can do it. You can actually request it. Yeah. I tried to do it for Osaka one time, and I didn't request it because I couldn't be in Japan at the time because of the COVID restrictions. But but you could request it. And I did see people on Discord. Remember they have a Discord, right? I did see people on Discord say they were able to get the tickets. So
yeah. And the last thing that they offer was the VIP pass if you buy a platinum or diamond one, which is whatever. I didn't spend my money on that, but they're only offering 3 things now. And like I said, I don't know if if buying the NFT is worth just for Judo TV, but I don't know. It might be for some people out there. If it might be for you, try it out, see how you like it. Like I said, you can just buy it directly from them. It's $110 in American. I think it's $100 euro. And then the other options by the NFT, but they have Judo TV back. So this is kind of cool for us. All right. So let's talk about Judo TV. Let's get out of their stats section now. Let's talk about the tournament itself. I want to talk about my first thing is I just want to talk about some highlights. Because I know people don't want to hear about every individual match or every individual who won gold medal and stuff. But I just want to talk about my girl, Clarice. All right. 6-time world champion. Woman comes back with a baby. The whole country's against her. She ain't getting no sponsorships. She's wearing her own goddamn gi. All right. Get the F off. 6-time world champion. Step off, fools. All right. How you like that? Was I a little too over?
I didn't watch the match, but I did see that she won again. But I guess I was like, oh yeah, she won. It's kind of like saying, oh yeah, Utabe won. Yeah. So
yeah. Oh yeah. We'll talk about that too. But okay, so that was a kind of cool thing. She becomes 6-time world champion. Another great highlight for France that's going to get the Olympics in about a year and a half or less than that now is oh my God, now I can remember his damn name right now. Brain fart right now. What's his damn name? Teddy Riner. Teddy Riner takes gold, another world championship for him. This is now, I believe, his 12th world championships. So 12th world champion win.
Are we going to talk about that controversial call? Well, I don't think it's controversial, but like people made a big deal out of it. It's
been a few weeks now. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get on this. I just want to talk about some highlights. I'm talking about the good stuff. All right. Good for him. All right. 12-time. I'm going to say 12-time for him. Another one was the Abe brother and sister team. Both of them taking gold on the same day again. These two are just two monsters.
See, now that's controversial. People aren't raising heck about that.
Anthony owes me another 6-pack of beer because in the finals,
it wasn't a continuing. It was not a continuing bet.
It was Moriyama versus Abe again in the World Championships final. This match went 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it was a pretty long golden score.
Yeah.
I think Mariyama got screwed over.
Oh, of course you are.
I think Abe would have won anyway. Personally, I want Mariyama to win, but I think Abe would have won anyway, given what I saw. but that was a terrible call. It
was
Shido.
sad. Yeah, it was sad seeing such a great match end in a Shido. I get it. Yeah, they should have let it go for something.
It's not even like a justified Shido call. Like, I mean, he just attacked like not too long ago, but it wasn't a good attack though. What can you do when you attack someone and then they drop to their knees? Like, that's an attack, I think. Like, I attack you and you drop to your knees and pretend you did a drop Seoi in the wrong direction. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was a terrible call. But it just blows my mind that people are more upset about Teddy Rainier's call than this one. Like, there was more. And what even blew my mind even more was IJF came out with 2 statements about that call and not this call.
Oh, did they? I didn't hear.
Oh yeah. They came out with a statement at first saying like, oh, I guess it could have been score, and then afterwards they apologized and said that it was basically a wrong call. Which I and also the first no, even before that statement, the guy came out to the head IJF ref came to justify the call, and he was using like the wrong justification too. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, do you even read your own rules? Like,
he's pulling stuff out his ass. This technique and
so he was using the wrong justification, and then instead of correcting the justification, they just said that the call was wrong, which is stupid. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, what are you smoking? But yeah, I don't care anymore. Like I said, like it just makes no sense anymore. The refs just all lost. I never had respect for their calls in the first place, but now they instead of just losing respect, they're losing credibility too, because you can't even get your own like making your own shit up right. And now you have to come out and apologize saying you got the wrong call and you're not making any amends for it. So, which I think was a correct call. I don't think it was a wrong call. But yeah. So
and my last
more reason why I wouldn't give them money. So.
It's not that is it the IGF? Do the IGF? So that's one thing that we talked about before is how IGF. How I don't know how the pay is structured for IGF refs, but then BJJ refs get mad with.
They don't get paid.
Yeah, so IGF refs don't get paid. Local judo refs don't get paid, but apparently BJJ refs get mad because they don't get paid enough. What the hell? I didn't know the refs get paid. How? I know. BJJ. Come on.
BJJ refs get paid. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't. This is crazy. Oh, we get our points towards our Don ranks. My last flowers I'm giving out, this is my last one. You can talk about what you want to talk about is Taguchi. Christian Taguchi. Chris, I can never say your name right. Chris, I can never say the name correctly.
Chris Taguchi.
Just Taguchi. Amazing technique out there. Did great. Got a world championship. Won a world championship out there. And by doing it, she beat the Japanese player, which is one of the interesting reasons to me, because she left Japan because they didn't give her. Yeah, she didn't get her spot. So she's like, well, if I can't get my spot here, I'm going to go to Canada and go to instead. And now look, I'm a world champion. And who did I beat? I beat a Japanese player. Booyah!
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping we would see a Klimkate versus Taguchi match again.
Well, Klimkate took bronze, so
yeah, but they didn't have a matchup.
Yeah,
but I was kind of hoping they would fight each other again.
Canada final.
Yeah, because I mean I know who would win, but I'm sad to see that's not going to happen. But then people were always using the like people who support Klimkate used to use the argument that, well, Taguchi didn't lost before they even got to Klimkate, so it means she can't like fight at the world level compared to Klimkate, which is a stupid argument. But now it's like reversed, right? The other Klimkate lost before she even got to fight Taguchi. So yeah, I mean they're both great. It's just I think Taguchi would still win. So assuming the ref isn't gonna not call false attacks, obviously. So, yeah.
Well, it's still funny that I remember the last episode, 2 or 3 episodes ago, we talked about how everybody was like, "Oh my God, Klimkate beat her, Klimkate beat her," and I was like, "Oh, let me watch this match." Oh, this is BS. Yeah. This is a Shido beat. It wasn't Wazadi. It wasn't Ippon. It was nothing. It wasn't Newaza. It was a Shido beat. Get the F out of here.
No, she threw her in the end after like 15 false attacks. Yeah,
was it? God, I just remember all the false
after
attacks.
like 15 uncalled false attacks, she threw her for Wazari.
Yeah, because I counted each false attack, and I was like, yeah, there's like 15 false attacks or something. It was so many.
It's because I don't. On me, if someone knows, please tell me. But I don't know why Deguchi chooses this way of countering the drop Seoi. Is she puts her knee on the back. I personally do not prefer that version of countering, because if she drops in deep enough, then you're going over, which is exactly what happened at the end, because the knee thing stopped her the first like 10 times, but then like that last one that sent her over because she didn't do it fast enough. I would always opt to jump to the side and choke her, which is how Deguchi usually beats her anyway. But yeah, I don't know why Deguchi opted in that match to do that thing where she did it more than in one match, but she puts the knee down on her back when she drops down. So.
And then on the last day, they had the mixed team championships, and Japan took first, France took second, Georgia took third, and the Netherlands took third as well. So those are your top 4 teams in the mixed team championships.
Yeah. Anthony,
was there anything else that you want to talk about, or any like highlights that you saw that you liked?
I was, other than disappointed by the calls, there's too many bad calls for me to even count. Like there was that Spanish guy, I forgot his name. He almost freaking killed Takato.
Oh, yeah, that was
not a Hansoku Make. I have no idea.
His arm was straight out. It was just like what people on Reddit were arguing for the wrong things. They're like, oh, now they're gonna ban this technique, blah blah. I'm like, dude, it's not about the technique. It's just like one-handed sode. If you do it wrong and the guy's arm is like there's pressure on the guy's arm, then it's Hansoku Make. Like, don't ban the technique. We talked about reverse Seoi, right? Don't ban the technique. Ban it when people do it incorrectly. Not ban it. Disqualify people for doing it incorrectly when they do put people's arms and shit in danger. Which is what happened here, and I don't know how they didn't call the Hansoku Make there. Yeah, I don't know, and also kind of disappointed with Saito's performance. I don't know what was going on, but even how do I say this nicely? Even when he debuted and he won the All Japans, I think I'll just go ahead and say it. Like, he won All Japans because he's huge. I think he's a big boy.
Yeah. And I wasn't very impressed with his judo in the first place. So I think for now, he still has a lot of time to develop to fill in the shoes, but I think it's too early for him to be like the first string kind of thing in the top level tournaments. I think it's still too early for him. And part of it probably has to do with living up to his dad's name, that pressure. So, but I can totally see him being a total beast in a few years. But right now, I still think he should probably be like second string or something like that. That's just my opinion. But yeah.
All right. So is that it? That's all the highlights you want to talk about?
Yeah. But overall, I disappointed by what I saw from the highlights. I was disappointed by the World Championships, and I'm not too upset that I didn't get to see it while I was in Ireland.
And you call yourself a judo player? Get out of here! Give me back your black belt. And with that, we move on to our next topic, which is going to lead into our main topic of the day, which I know we talked about a lot of stuff already. So, like, what else do we have to say? But I want to give a big congratulations to Gabby Garcia out there getting her black belt in judo. I know there's some controversy out there. People are like, how's this jiu-jitsu player getting her black belt? But if you look into it, she did judo when she was a kid. I don't know
how far she got. No, she has a black belt. It just wasn't recognized by USA Judo.
Yeah, but I was saying, like, she has a USA Judo black. Let me put it. She has a USA Judo black belt now. Okay, so it was one thing that it got out there. People were like, she's a BJJ player. She's a great BJJ player. How many time world champion she is? She does great in MMA and stuff. She's kind of fun to watch when she does MMA as well. But it became controversy. Like, well, what is the correlation between a BJJ black belt and like a judo black belt, because you have this whole thing of, oh, well, if you're a black belt in judo, if you do BJJ, you should be a blue belt. Oh, well, if you wrestled in college, you should be a blue belt. Or if you're a BJJ player with a black belt, you should start off judo with at least a green belt, or maybe just before brown belt. There's this weird, and it varies from school to school, federation to federation. Like I always bring up to Anthony. Anthony's a black belt in judo. He's a very solid black belt in judo, but he's still a white belt in BJJ, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I bring up that right there. Shouldn't Anthony, since he's a black belt in judo, should he be automatically given his blue belt then, you know? I wrestled in college. I wrestled in college when I did BJJ for a while, even though it was no gi. I still competed and did everything as a white belt. They were like, okay, Juan, you go to blue belt division or nothing, or you go to purple belt division. So it's like these weird things of where do I go?
I think that blue belt division thing for wrestlers only it's only if you wrestled in college and for no gi. So in the no gi division, you go to blue belt, but in the gi, you stay in white belt, even if you wrestled.
See, I heard it's different things. Like says, if
I'm just going off by the rules from when I last competed.
Okay, you have to, like other ones are, you have to be a Division I. If you're a Division I player, you're automatically blue belt. You can't do anything less than that, you know? Or if you're a Division I wrestler that goes into judo, he should start off at like a green belt or something, or start him off as a brown belt. Or he's a black belt, he's a world champion black belt in BJJ, start him off as a brown belt. We have these weird things. And with me, I'm just talking about how there's that correlation between like, where do things go, where do they go to? And to me, it goes into the main topic of today is that there's imposter syndrome sometimes. Do I deserve what I have? And we talked about a little bit about it in our last episode when we congratulated our friend on getting his black belt and said, have your imposter syndrome passed yet? And I think a lot of black belts, or a lot of people when they get their black belts or get any belts sometimes, when I get my brown belt, when I get my purple belt in BJJ or brown belt or green belt or whatever belt, sometimes that imposter, like, do I deserve it? You know? And I want to talk to Anthony about this because I know Anthony had a little bit of this when he got his black belt, of that imposter syndrome. And Anthony, how did you feel about when you got your black belt and this imposter syndrome people talk about?
I mean, I had it when I was a brown belt too, remember? And and then it wasn't until I went to a competition as a brown belt and I beat all the brown belts but lost to all the black belts. That's when I was like, oh yeah, then I kind of deserve this rank. And then I mean, I've only been to one competition so far since I got my black belt, and I beat one black belt. It was a team competition though, so there was only like 2 or 3 matches. But yeah, I mean, I would just compete again. That's how I think that's like the best way of resolving the imposter syndrome, is to see where you're at. But then even then, like everyone has different injuries. Like for me, it was like my knee. So then there's like we talked about this, like how there's the knowledge way of going through black belt, and then there's like the competition route, and then there's like a mix of both, right? And then there's like the volunteering, which is, I guess we had that talk before, how it might be controversial, but yeah, overall, I think again, you can't help the whole point of imposter syndrome is that it's not logical, right? We can explain to you how you deserve it because you volunteered, you won these competitions, you did this, you did that, you know all the how to teach all the techniques or whatever, but you can't help but feel that way. That's the point of imposter syndrome. And just kind of like how at work, right? I'm in tech, right? It's a pretty big problem in tech too, imposter syndrome. It's this is where it kind of overlaps, is the more you know, that's the more you know you don't know. And that totally applies in both tech and judo, is the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know and how much deeper level the hole goes, how deep the hole goes. And that's why Shodan is like the beginner rank, especially in Japan. We talked about that too. It's because that's when you know all the basics, and then now you're ready to actually like deep dive into all the stuff. And I have to keep reminding myself that, is that especially since I think I don't want to say that it's not true anymore, but out of all the black belts in our dojo, I think I'm one of the in terms of competitive skill wise, I'm probably one of the lowest out of all the black belts in our dojo. And that gives me imposter syndrome all the time. Even though I feel like I excel in the knowledge part and the teaching, but I can't help but feel that imposter syndrome sometimes. And I think the only way to resolve that is to go compete more. But as I compete and as I teach more and do more reading, I still realize, wow, there's so much I don't know. Like, how would I ever catch up to all this knowledge? Or even not just from reading, just comparing what I know to what Philippe knows. I'm just like, how am I ever gonna like know as much as Philippe does? And but that's like, everyone has their own journey. You don't have to know exactly everything that your instructor knows. Some people choose to just focus on competition. Some people choose to focus on just like certain techniques that they're good at. I think in the end, it goes back to what we always discuss, which is, do you feel like your belt represents what your instructor gave you? Like your instructor's brand of judo, your dojo style of judo, and whether you trust your instructor's evaluation of your skills. Because I mean, just like when we get Japanese visitors that are black belts, we know the standards for judo, black shodan is lower in Japan. We don't expect them to come and like kick everyone's ass, right? So,
oh yes, I do.
So I feel like that's kind of the same. It's like, oh, this is a Hollywood judo black belt. Like this is a whatever. Tenri black belt. This is this is like a Shintaro black belt kind of thing. Like everyone, as much as lineage shouldn't matter, it does matter a little bit. And well, without a strong central governing body like some countries do for judo, I think that's just how the reality of American black belts are going to be like. Is that where do you got a black belt basically? So what do you think?
With me, I never really felt imposter syndrome. When I got my brown belt, I was like, I'm ready for my brown belt. You know, I was there. I was like, I'm fighting everybody. I was winning all the time. Like, I'm ready for get my brown belt, you know? When I got my black belt, it was like I did all the paperwork. I did everything. It's like I did everything I was supposed to do to get my black belt. So I was like, I'm ready to get my black belt. My second dan, I was like, oh, it's kind of fast, but yeah, I've done everything. I got my points. I got everything I'm supposed to do. Yeah, I'm ready for I'm ready for my second dan. My third dan, I was like, wow, I got my points already. I can apply for it, but it's a little bit fast. And then I started finally started to get that little bit imposter syndrome, like starting to feel it. It's like, okay, all right, but I got this stuff done. I have it all. All right, I'm going to apply, see what they say. Oh, here's your third dan. Oh, great. Okay, so I am a third dan. Okay, yeah, I'm a legit third dan. But then this is where I go into like, okay, I'm a third dan, but I know some other third dans that are like, man, that guy's better than I am. That guy's way better in randori than I am, but I know better technique than this guy, but I know I can teach better than that guy. So it's like, yeah, like I'm there, but now that I'm coming into now I'm not 5 years yet, but the minimum points for like this, one of the longer distances to get your fourth dan. The stuff that I'm like, oh, I can qualify for fourth dan in 5 years. I can do what I have to do to get it in 5 years. But will I feel like a fourth dan in judo in those 5 years? In the next
for those who don't know,
years?
Like fourth dan is like the first big step, like to like an important rank. In most Japanese martial arts, with belt system, like fourth dan is the first like instructor rank usually. I think most aikido, judo, jujitsu, like kind of stuff, like fourth dan is the first big rank. You can't even teach until you get a fourth dan, if I remember correctly, in Japan.
Something like that in Japan, yeah, like that. Just like how in America, every dojo's head instructor should be at least a fifth dan. Like the head, like not the instructors don't have to be fifth dan, but I think it was USA Judo or USA said that or put out a thing like that. It is years ago anyways. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't listen to what they put out.
I know. When
they say a lot of things. They say a lot of things.
I'm going to see a lot of people get bumped up really soon, aren't I? But yeah, so I'm getting to that time for fourth dan. And this is where I am starting to feel that imposter syndrome of like, am I qualified? Am I ready? Because I already have like 3 points. Okay. Like you need I think it's 5 points or 6 points in 5 years, or after 5 years, it's like minimum 5 points or something like that. So I already have 3 points. And I'm just like, man, I already have like more than half the points. Shit. Okay. Am I going to be ready? And I will. And being a 40-year-old fourth dan isn't like a big deal. Like, oh my God, he's 40, the fourth dan. I know. If I was getting a coral belt at 40, I'd be like, holy shit. Oh, look at me. I'm fancy here. But it's not. But it's weird because in judo, I feel that pressure and I feel that the imposter syndrome there. But in Tang Soo Do karate, when I was 25 or 26 and I got my fourth dan Tang Soo Do, I was like, I'm good. Like I was ready to get more dan ranks and stuff. And even with talking to old instructors and be like, hey, Juan, if you learn this kata and that kata and stuff and brushed up on this stuff here and just came to these seminars with us, you can get your fifth dan in Tang Soo Do. I'm just like, yeah, I probably could. It's like no big deal to me. It's like, yeah, I can get Tang Soo Do fifth dan, no problem. And I don't know, it's just because I have more, what do you call like faith or just more ego about my Tang Soo Do, about my karate. It's like, yeah, I have no problem. Yeah. Like I can beat up most fifth dans anywhere. I can beat up like everybody here.
Do they do any sort of Batsugan style promotions in Tang Soo Do?
They probably do. It probably just depends on the dojo. But the instructor that I was talking to about getting my fifth dan again, he's a big kata guy. And that's why it's like, I can beat up all your students. I can beat up all your students and your number ones and number twos, number threes. I beat up that guy, him, her, that baby.
And they don't have an age bracket kind of thing, do they?
No, okay. Not really. But maybe in traditional, like really unified Korean Tang Soo Do, there might be, but not in the American one that we were under and stuff. And I don't think under UFEF, which is Chuck Norris's old one, I don't think they have an age requirement either. But it's about like being able to do certain things. But there is a lot of like multi-man sparring, 2-on-1, 3-on-1 sparrings and stuff, self-defense techniques, katas, all that kind of stuff you have to do. It's more like a more regular test that people think of. But one of the things that is the highest ranked thing to test is, can you spar? And it's like, oh yeah, I can spar still. I can always spar. I can always go. But in Tang Soo Do, I'm just like, yeah, I can go, no problem. But Tang Soo Do, just getting a fourth in judo, getting a fourth in judo is just like, am I qualified? Am I ready? Can I do this? It's like, that's when I'm getting this imposter syndrome for me. So I wonder how it is for someone like going back to Gabby Garcia, known as this great jiu-jitsu player, world champion, MMA, does all this stuff. How does she feel about getting an American judo black belt and people looking at her that way? Would you feel imposter syndrome there?
Yeah, but she already had a black belt, like we said.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this is more popular though. This is more bigger. Like she never wore a judo black belt, She never went to judo clinics and did judo stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm more curious like whether they made her do the kata.
You're more about the test things. Like, did she do the kata? But
she already had a black belt from judo. So I think it was just more of like getting exposure for USA Judo to give her American, just like Philippe. Like Philippe would have been higher than sixth dan right now if he got his rank recognized when he moved to America. But I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I don't think she cares. I honestly don't. I think we're overthinking it. I don't think she really cares.
Well, I just wonder, how do other people feel then? How do other people feel about stuff? Because like you said, you have one of your friends that's a brown belt in Texas, and he was having a hard time when he got it. When he did he get his brown belt, or did he just get his brown belt?
Which friend? Are you talking about Johnny?
Not Johnny. Not Johnny. No, Johnny's good. Johnny's real good and stuff. Yeah. But even Johnny, I'm gonna Johnny going out there, international competitor. Okay, technically still a citrus color, and going
he's
out
a brown belt
doing
now.
It. Yeah, I know. But when he first started doing this crazy shit, when he was first going out there, this boy is nuts. Johnny gets like that boy. Like he gets my respect.
He got really good. He's black belt level now, but he's still a brown belt. But at the training camp, he was wearing a black belt. I forgot. There was a reason why he was wearing it. I don't remember why. But he's
representing his country. That's why.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole. Like, there's multiple people I met over the last few months. I guess few months, 6 months, where it's just really weird. They have this thing where they train at multiple places, and one sensei gave them the black belt, and then when they went back to the other dojo, they didn't want to cause any problems. So they wear their brown belt. It's more common than you think. I was like, wow, it's like 4 people I met now.
It's a weird thing. We have a dad and son that comes to our dojo, and for some reason, you've been gone since this happened. Since you've been gone for like 3 months, 3 weeks. I mean, 3 months. You've been gone for like 3 weeks. When the dad came at first, the dad's wearing a brown belt. Whatever, he's a brown belt at his own dojo. I don't give a whatever. Okay, it's not a black belt. We're not asking like for proof of black belt or nothing. But the last few times since they started coming back, the dad always wears a white belt now. I don't know why. Maybe because he saw our brown belts or saw how like we're killers, maybe, and was like, oh, I don't know. They're gonna see I'm a brown belt. Want to go with me? Screw this.
Yeah, it's really weird, huh? Yeah. But back to the imposter syndrome. I think it kind of got renewed. My imposter syndrome feeling when I had to do this trip to Ireland, because I knew I was going to visit clubs, and now it's no longer like American standards. Like I'm like, wow, maybe by Ireland standards, I'm like a trash black belt, you know? So like, what if they go really hard and they get hurt, and then I have to travel the rest of the trip with a limp leg or something like that. Like all these thoughts just rush through my head, but then I just like force myself to send a message out anyway to say like, hey, I'm in town, I want to visit. And everyone's supposedly really cool. So you just got, I was scared of training jujitsu there. Let's just put it that way. Cause I always had better interactions with visiting judo clubs than jujitsu clubs. Yeah. Like I think I told a story about what happened last time I visited a jiu-jitsu club where the kid was like face cranking me, fish hooking me, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't think about training jiu-jitsu this trip, but definitely renewed my imposter syndrome about having a black belt and all that kind of stuff, because I didn't feel like when I was a brown belt, I didn't feel like I had to defend it, all kind of thing. And then even now when I go visit clubs, people make me like line up in front with all the other instructors kind of thing. It's just like really weird to me. I'm like a visitor. So even on my old club, visitors, I thought this was the norm, but I haven't seen any other dojo that does it yet. If you Google it, I think it's a norm. Like visitors and honored guests are supposed to be like lined up on the side at some clubs. It's not a requirement, but it is a thing. Like instructors are like right closest to Kano's picture, and on the side is like some places do brown belts, but it's supposed to be like guests and guests of honor kind of thing, and visitors, and then you have the regular line. So I get really uncomfortable all the time when I have to line up with the rest of the people. That's an imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah. But when I go visit places, even no matter what, I'm a third dan, when I was second dan, whatever, I always line up as the last black belt. When I go visit places, I always line up as the last black belt, and I'm just like, hey, I'm fine over here, don't worry about me, you know.
Yeah, and then I visit on the club on certain days, right? So last time, before I went on my trip, I went to visit that club, and then they're like, hey, Anthony, show us how you guys do warm-ups at Hollywood Judo. And then I was just like, are you sure? Like, so
do you want a wand warm-up or
yeah. And I was afraid of like doing anything that offended them, or like going too hard, or like, cause like we said, dojos have different cultures, and then you kind of set the tone as an instructor, the way you run your class, like how the club is going to be like. So then that's like just setting the culture. So people train that way, right? And they develop that way around that culture. Like if you're going to be like a recreational club that does kata all the time, then if you teach class like that, then you're going to develop like people like that over time. So I was afraid that we would go too hard or too easy or whatever, right? So that was like a very nervous thing. And then I'm just like, okay, how long is this warm-up supposed to last? This is the next thing. Because usually I don't really do your traditional warm-up. I already said that. So the warm-up I do kind of blends into like the regular class. So technically our warm-ups are like half an hour. It's just you're not doing conditioning. You're kind of like doing the games and drills at the same time as warm-up. It just slowly ramps up in intensity. So yeah, that was just like a really nervous thing for me to do. So that visiting clubs is when my imposter syndrome is the strongest, I think. Versus other times I can just training at my own club at Hollywood. everyone knows, like everyone knows each other. They know how hard I want to go. They know what I know, what I don't know. They know my injuries. Like I don't feel any pressure to like do that. And another thing is when I go train at clubs, this is mostly for BJJ places. I have to be like, I have a bad knee. Like I really don't want to use that as a crutch sometimes. But especially in BJJ, I don't feel safe when I go visit places. So I always have to say that. But in judo, I try to avoid telling people like I have a bad knee and all that stuff, because I don't want to use that as a crutch or excuse for why you can't do certain things. But yeah, imposter syndrome, man. Like it happens in every industry, not just tech and not just judo. I think a lot of pro fighters say that they have some sort. They don't call it imposter syndrome, right? But I think a lot of pro fighters also say they feel like they don't deserve what they got, or they got lucky in their win or kind of stuff. And I think sometimes it's a good thing, because that's what drives you to continue. Well, it should drive you to continue to improve, instead of being satisfactory with what you have achieved. Just don't let it spin out of control and basically hurt your own confidence and affect your performance and everything from it. But the most important takeaway, like I said, is you realize how much you don't know. That's the important thing. You just realize there's so much that you don't know. And that's what keeps me coming back to judo, is just there's so much to learn. Especially since you think there's only, like, a lot of people think judo is just like Ippon Seonage, Uchimata, Haraigoshi, like the same few throws, but there's so many variations. And then that's even before you even touch the less common throws. And yeah, it's an endless sea of knowledge.
Now, with imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you deserve it, you get nervous about where you're at or where your level is, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the reverse of imposter syndrome.
Oh, you mean Dunning-Kruger? That's
Dunning-Kruger. I heard of that one before. It's
a really overused term on the internet now, so I try to not use it.
Okay.
Basically, the Dunning-Kruger effect is about how people who know the least tend to overestimate their abilities, while people who know the most tend to underestimate their ability. So that's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay. So yeah, Dunning-Kruger. Why not? So you used to get some Krugers out there. Rawr.
It's named after the psychologist who came up with that term, I think.
Yeah, most likely. There's also the opposite effect, where someone thinks that they're way better than they actually are. Where you get a brown belt that thinks like, "Oh, I'm a black belt. I can beat every black belt in here," or you get a white belt that thinks, "Oh, I should be a certain citrus color already, or I should already be a brown belt already, or I should be a black belt." There's the opposite of that. And I'm not saying like when I talk about my Tonk Sudos, where I think like, yeah, I should be this, I should be that. I'm saying, no, I have no problem getting to that point. We're talking about these ones is that it's the overestimation of their abilities like we talked about. And I wanted to bring that up because sometimes that can nip you in the butt, because I've seen people that overestimate their abilities, and they'll quit a certain dojo. They'll be dojo hopping, looking for what they want, and say, we don't give it to them. So they'll go to another dojo. Maybe that dojo will give it to them. And the most I see this in there is someone that's a brown belt or just under brown belt that wants their black belt. And recently I saw a person that we know that left our dojo, went somewhere else to get a black belt, got their black belt, and ended up going to another dojo, got their black belt, and then they wanted to prove that they're a true black belt somehow. And what's the best way to do that is in competition. But then they went to competition and they got beat up. Not beat up like they got knocked.
I was trying to think who you're talking about, because I blocked him out of my memory because he's so.
Well, the thing is, I have two examples, I have three big examples of that. Where, so this one right here, he overestimated his abilities, went to a dojo, got a certain black belt and stuff, goes to competition, and then he gets beat by a real black belt. Like there was a really, really good black belt competition.
I think you need to give more context. Like this guy got his brown belt, his Sankyu.
Yeah.
And then within the next week, he was asking, where's his black belt?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even kidding when I said a week. Like, yeah. I was like, within a week, he's like, when am I going to get my black belt?
And he was doing weird things, trying to line up certain ways, try to talk to people certain ways, do stuff to his own belt. But let's just say, truthfully, it was under a year from him getting his brown belt and squeaking by getting his brown belt to getting his black belt. So he goes to competition. Competition is, was it truth by fire, or what they call it, whatever, trial by fire. Mm-hmm. Goes to competition, gets beat by a really good black belt, gets tossed by a really good black belt. His second match, he faces a guy that's not even a ranked judo player. He's a BJJ black belt, but somehow he got put into the judo black
at his first judo tournament. Got put in the black belt division somehow. And then I don't think he threw, I think he pinned him. He got pinned, yeah.
Yeah, he got pinned in that match. And then he tapped from a pin, which people know how I feel about that. It's only 20 seconds. You can stand 20 seconds, all right? Unless you're being choked, all right? But if it's 10 to 20 seconds, you can fight for 10 to 20 seconds. You don't tap from a pin. That's just Sensei Juan here. That's just me talking, all right? But it was trial by fire. He went there. He got beat by a white belt in judo. He got beat by a black belt in judo. And it's like, it shows you where you're at, And now people, when he goes to the other dojos, he's going to have to defend that black belt. And as we talked about right there, it is someone overestimating their abilities. You wear that black belt. That's just how it is. Any dojo you go to, you're going to have to defend it. So that's the opposite.
It makes judo look bad, syndrome. Especially in that case. It makes the judo look bad because I went home and I think I told you, like, Facebook suggested like a BJJ fanatics post of some BJJ Facebook group that's pretty big. And the guy was like, look, I'm a white belt that just beat a black belt in judo competition. And I'm just like, oh man,
you beat a brown belt. You beat a bad brown belt. And they clip this and find there's something. Yeah, man, I'm sorry to tell you out there. You got beat by a really good judo black belt your first match. Your second match, the guy that you beat at the unnamed dojo stuff that you pinned, that guy's barely a brown belt. He's a squeaky by brown belt that somehow has a black belt, But that's what happens. Another time I knew a guy that trained with us for a very long time, didn't want to do the work to get his black belt, overestimated his abilities, went somewhere else, got his black belt there, and then he totally just quit judo. He just stopped doing judo. I don't know whatever happened to him. I think he trains BJJ now, I heard. But this is the opposite of it. And you have to remember, once you wear a black belt in judo, or once you get a certain level, you're going to have to defend it to that level. Like Anthony was saying with the imposter syndrome, when he goes to Europe now wearing a black belt, he's going to have to fight European black belts. They're going to say, oh, an American black belt. They're going to go harder with him. My last one that I have is I knew a guy. We had a guy that was dojo hopping from dojo to dojo to dojo, said he was a brown belt. Now, again, we didn't look for proof of like, well, let me see your card, let me see your certificate to see your brown belt. But he's asking like, well, how can I get my black belt? And we told him, well, you have to come a lot. You're going to get tested. You have to learn Nagi no Kata, do all this stuff, like do the testing stuff. We're not asking you because you're an older gentleman in his, I'd say maybe 50s, 60s, maybe.
If it's who I think you're talking about, yeah, he's in his 50s.
Yeah, 50s or 60s. So we're not asking you to go to competitions and stuff, but we want you to do the requirements. And he said, okay, yeah, do it. Came maybe a few times, maybe try to learn Nagi no Kata and just out of nowhere.
No, he didn't even try.
Hop to another dojo. That's another guy. So it's not just you. When you get this black belt, it's not you're going to be given a black belt and suddenly there's just aura around you. You get all this stuff. You're going to be like, oh, the heavens open up for you. It comes with responsibility. That's why people that take it serious, like me, like Anthony, like other black belts, sometimes you get this imposter syndrome. Like, do I really deserve this? And you get people that don't deserve it, that get it, and they ruin it for all of us. So it's just to let you know, there's two sides of this coin. There's people that maybe overthink it and people that underthink it. And when you underthink it, what happened to our friend our acquaintance at the tournament, that's what's going to happen to you. And if you're lucky, it might happen in a tournament where someone has control. But if this happens to you at a dojo, you're visiting, you're going somewhere, they might not have that much control. You might go to sleep or get something else broken or something. But yeah, I'm just going to let you know two sides of the coin there. It's not just all I'm not ready. There's some people that are like, oh, I'm super ready. I'm super, super ready. So
we already had an episode talking about black belt standards, but that's why I don't, without going too deep into that episode, just repeating the same content. That's why I'm not very into belt ranks, because people see it as an end goal to get it and then they quit. So I think, the Japanese have a right, basically, like making it like a beginner rank. So it's not a big deal for you to have a black belt. Like everyone has one there almost. So that way it's not a big deal. You have a black belt. And then for those who keep, like, the dan ranks actually mean a lot. Because the jumps between skill level and commitment and stuff between each dan rank is exponentially higher. So that's just my opinion. But that's the other discussion. So back to the imposter syndrome. Yeah, I don't know how, what you said, like, I don't know how some of these people aren't self-aware, but I guess there's a lot of things in life where people aren't self-aware about this kind of stuff. And I know, again, correct me if I'm wrong if you're listening to this, but I know, like, USA Judo with the Parks and Recs program right now, they've been having a little trouble finding volunteers. So again, if you're in the LA area and you want to volunteer teaching judo to kids, then contact USA Judo, I guess. But I think they've been giving out belts to people who volunteer to compete. Like, I don't know how they don't get imposter syndrome if this is true, if this is happening. I think they were giving brown belts to some people that don't know judo that well, like jiu-jitsu people. And then I think some brown belts were getting given black belts. But yeah, I don't know how people not get imposter syndrome that way. If I got my black belt that way, I would say no. I wouldn't want to get my black belt that way. Two, if I did, I would definitely feel like I don't know jack shit, you know. But yeah, because I think we know someone that actually did get their black belt that way. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you got his black belt. If you know who I'm talking about.
If I'm thinking who you're thinking, which I'm thinking that you're thinking that I know that you're thinking that we're thinking, no, I don't believe they got their black belt.
Okay, he didn't get his black belt.
But what could happen, and I've seen this happen in other dojos before, and I see this happen at community center martial arts all the time, is that say you get someone that is a citrus color, they know the basics, they know how to teach Ippon Sonagi, Ogoshi, and like Osotogari or something, the basic ones for like a yellow belt. They'll put a brown belt or black belt on them to teach class, but they're kind of told you're not a real brown belt or black belt. But we talked about that before as well with other things where certain dojos will put, or not certain dojo, but dojos all around the country, all around the world will be like, oh, well, you're an assistant. Well, let's get you a brown belt, or at least wear this brown belt while you teach, but you're really just.
Yeah, we're going back into what we talked about.
Yeah. It's another thing. It's another thing we're talking about episode, but yeah, that does happen sometimes. Yeah, that is a little interesting thing that you talk about, that imposter syndrome. It's like, I'm teaching these kids. I would like hope to God, like say, okay, I'm gonna be all cocky, but I'm a decent grappler. But let's say I BS'd and I was like, yeah, I'm a BJJ black belt. Okay. A place needed, they wanted a BJJ instructor. They didn't want a judo instructor. Okay. But I know how to wrestle. I know catch wrestling. I'm a legit judo guy. All right. So with that, I could fake enough to teach BJJ. All right. I'll just be teaching Newaza. Tell nobody, but I'm just teaching Newaza. All right. I'm not teaching BJJ. I would be interested, not scared, but I'd be very interested and intrigued to see if any BJJ guy would show up to be like, let's see what this guy's teaching. Let's see how he is, which is something terrible because I have done that to people with judo, where I've gone to these small judo clubs before and gone like, yeah, where'd you get your black belt from? What registration do you have? USJA, USJF and stuff. I'm not being a D, but I am being a D at the same time. But I would just be, because of imposter syndrome, I'd be scared of that happening to me. That's what I would be, you know?
Yeah. So to summarize, is there anything else? Like, I think
I just want to put it out there that it's okay to have imposter syndrome. It's okay to be a little nervous. All right. But remember, if your instructor, for the most part, like there are some bad black belts out there are some bad brown belts out there, but if your instructor feels that you deserve this rank and you qualified for it through in the US, USJA, USJF, USA Judo, and you qualified and you got it through them, you're legit. Don't worry about it. Like, just accept what you are and try to grow to be a better judo player.
And so to summarize, if you have imposter syndrome, you should trust your instructor's evaluation. If you don't trust them, then you're training at the wrong place, right? So you should find someone else that you trust their evaluation. And if you feel like you want to be a competitive black belt and you got your black belt a different way, like not through competition, then that's also not what's going to represent your belt. Like, don't lie to yourself and think like, oh, I'm a black belt, I should be able to beat all these other people or whatever, when you got your black belt through like kata or something, you know? So, so I think like just don't lie to yourself that way too. But otherwise, best way of beating imposter syndrome is to go compete, is what I think. So that's the best way of dealing with it.
That is one of the best ways to prove yourself in the line of fire, see what happens. Yes. All right. So with that, Anthony, is there anything else you want to talk about today, or is that it?
No, I think pretty good. That was a pretty long episode, huh?
Is it?
We did have a chat about my trip. Before recording.
We had two chats about your trip, actually.
Yeah, well, it was actually a good topic because, like I said, I did get imposter syndrome, and I was debating about not bringing my gi this trip just so I could enjoy it and not have to struggle with like, oh my God, like, should I go? Should I not go? But I just brought my gi anyway, even though I didn't get a chance to use it. But
it's funny that funny you bring that up. You were bringing it up to another topic and stuff, but it's funny that you got imposter syndrome going to Ireland, but you had no problem training in Japan, where I would be more nervous going to Japan and training than training anywhere else in the world.
Because I knew people in Japan, and also two, like I said, I knew Japan standards for belts was lower, and I was a brown belt at the time too. Remember that?
Yeah, but you weren't nervous.
I wasn't nervous because I was wearing a brown belt. I didn't feel like I had to defend anything, but that, like I said, in hindsight, I would have worn my black belt because people were afraid to go with me because I had a brown belt. And seeing the other visitors that have brown belts go there, I can understand why people were hesitant to go with me, especially because I'm huge. But I even now, if I go to Japan, I don't think I would be hesitant because everyone has a black belt. It's not a big deal. No one cares. So there's no imposter syndrome to be an imposter on. So no one's going to ask me to teach class. No one's going to ask me to run warm-ups. So, I could just enjoy having fun there. And also I think just the judo training etiquette there is just so much nicer. I think it might've been the places I went to, but, people weren't overly grip fighting. People weren't spamming drop throws. They weren't spamming Tani Otoshi. They weren't doing Tani Otoshi at all. While when I visit other places here, I have to worry about all that kind of stuff. Like, is this guy going to do something dumb to hurt me? Like, I didn't have to worry about that in Japan. And I didn't have to worry about like gassing out from grip fighting. So people just pretty much gripped and went, and it was fun. Like, it actually was fun being able to move around and try attacks out and throw people. It just felt really, really, really fun to train there. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite country to train at.
All right. Okay. And with that, we'll close off this episode of this week. Remember, I already said it already, but remember, please like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You want to send us any emails, send us any things, tell Anthony that he's bully Anthony some more. Go ahead at tatamitalk@gmail.com. Okay. But he will come back at you on Reddit. Okay. He ain't scared. He'll find you. He has a certain set of skills. That if you want to follow me, you follow me at @Jerry_1 on Instagram. You follow Anthony at Anthony Throws on Instagram. Anthony, am I forgetting anything else?
Nope, we're good.
All right. So with that, don't forget to
slap the mat.